Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today, my guest is an artist, a soul artist who's been making music for over 50 years. He's been sampled by the likes of J. Cole and Travis Scott. He's appeared on KXP Live Performance here in Seattle. He has an NPR Tiny Desk. He's also appeared on Nardwuar, which is awesome. And he has a new single out called Waiting on the Sidelines. And he will be here in Seattle/Tacoma on August 3rd. It's my pleasure to have on Lee Fields.
Thank you for having me. So good to be here.
Of course. So my first question for you, Lee, is after releasing all this music for over 50 years and all this this soul music, the music that really touches people, who hurt you, man?
Well, when I sing soul is not all about being hurt. It's not all about pain. It's about joy as well. It's a celebration of life in a way where you are actually feeling as you go through life. You try not to make the mistakes that you've made in the past. It's about life itself, trying to do better. And it's about all emotions, good emotions, bad emotions. It's about letting it out, because I think for people at large to really enjoy life at its best is to adjust to the lows in life and prepare and try to calculate how can you turn the lows into a high point. It's all about winning, man. Winning is everything to me. Winning is everything. Even the Bible and all of the religions tell you about winning. It's about winning, man. Although a person could be on a person's team and say a basketball organization, and people love them when they lose as well, but they really, really, really love them when they win. You know what I'm saying? It's about winning. And so as every day passes, and I know that, hello, are you still there?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it blanked off. And I know it's every day that passed by, and the lows in that day and the highs in the day, it's about winning. It's about surviving to another day. All creatures on this earth have to go through that process. Like in the jungle, for instance, the animals survive another day, and some of them don't. Some of them don't, because we are in a game called life, and either you're in it or either you're out. So you try to win as long as you're here. I want to win, man. I want to win every day. That's what gives me so much motivation and still able to get on that stage, man, and just do what I do, because it's about winning.
100%.
It's about staying. Like there's a scientific adage. It says a body in motion tend to stay in motion. A body at rest tend to stay at rest. So since I want to continue, I try to stay in motion. So it's all about winning for me. And winning is not walking out with a Grammy. Winning is not being just the top dog. Everybody try to be top dog. That's what winning is about. You try to get there. You know what I mean? The excitement is the trip itself. It's the trip itself, man. That's the excitement. And you take the lows, and you take it with you just take it with a grain of salt, and then you say, well, tomorrow I'm gonna win. And that's what motivates me.
I will
had to get that out.
100%. And I will say, being in your 70s and still having hair, that is a win in itself right there. So I hope to have hair in my 70s.
Well, I'm gonna put it like this: when you out here, And when you get at that age, and if you won to that point, basically you won. You know what I mean? Because nobody can take nothing with them.
Mm-hmm.
All of the accolades and all of that gonna stay here. Everything that you get here is gonna stay. So it's about winning. It's about winning is waking up, surviving that day, and trying to be in a better position tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what winning is about. One day at a time. It's about winning.
So what
makes me continue to do this, because I try to motivate people, because I've been through a lot of hardships myself.
Mm-hmm. So when you write some of these tear-jerking songs, is it always about your life, or are these sometimes experiences that you've heard from other people as well? Are you trying to get that message out as well?
Some of these songs that I write, it's about my life. But I observe other people's lives from afar, and some from a closer distance, like family members. And I watch people, and I watch what make them happy, what make them sad, and I watch what they are saying today. I listen to everything. I watch all of the as many of the shows that I can on these what they call these live shows, where they where they just let the participant at random do what they do. And I watch everything. I watch the way the dollar is gaining today. The dollar is gaining, and it's a beautiful thing. Not the dollar, but the euro is gaining, because the euro was so weak. So it's a beautiful thing. I watch everything, man, and so that's what it's about. It's just like the creatures in the jungle out there. If they don't watch, they'll be consumed. You know what I'm saying? It's about winning. Winning for some might mean getting a trophy. Winning for me, man, is surviving another day without losing the level that I was the day before. If I can maintain or stay close around or go higher, I'm trying to survive. And we survive until the day we are born, until the day we die. It's never over until it's over.
So with that, let's start from not exactly when you were born, but let's start in your childhood. And from my understanding, you grew up in North Carolina. I have some family members who were raised in North Carolina as well. What part of North Carolina were you from?
Wilson.
Okay, there we go. I have some family from Asheville, so that's cool.
Oh yeah, Asheville is up in the mountain. Yeah. I filmed that video from Sentimental Fool. I filled it up. I filmed that video in Asheville.
Nice, that's awesome. So with that, what was your childhood like? Did you have both parents in the household? What did they do? Did you have any siblings?
I had 3 siblings. And I had parents in the household. I had my mother and my father. My father had to like during the spring to the fall of the year, he had to work in constructions in around Washington, D.C. Because that's the best job he could find. So for about 6 months, he was working on highways and stuff. And I had 2 good parents, 2 good solid foundation of parents. And when I grew up, I saw people of color had very little, very, very little, man. And it was rough because people were very hostile at that time. It was like a whole nother world. It was like a kid asking themselves, why do people have to be so mean, you know? So after experiencing all of that through the civil rights movements, and I held steadfast to the Bible, because that's the only thing that really keeps me focused. Whenever I'm weak, it makes me strong. I read it and it makes me strong. So I was able to persevere through all of my life. So God has been very, very wonderful to me because God has opened up so many doors, and I'm so appreciative of what God has done.
Mm. So
As far as my past is concerned, I don't have any stories to tell you about. I was sleeping in the car and all of that.
right.
I know a lot of blues guys talk that, but I've been fortunate to a point of where things have been, even in the roughest of times, to a point of where there was wonderful times, even in the worst of times. Because I had my wife, I had my family, and I had the support of all my loved ones. So even in the roughest of times, they were good times.
Right. Would you say you're a glass half full type guy?
Say that again.
Are you a glass half full type guy?
Uh, well, I believe it both ways. Glass is half full and is half empty.
Mm.
You know, it's both ways. I look at the whole scope of things.
Mm. That's a good answer. I like that. I like that. So when you were growing up, did you go through segregation like through schooling, and what was that like?
Oh yeah, segregation, man, was like you know, you had your colored and your white fountains. You had your it was just nonsense, man.
Mm.
It was just totally nonsense. I think when people become wise enough to understand that the more knowledge the masses have, not selective, but the more knowledge the masses have, the more chance that maybe that one that we're looking for will pierce through.
Mm.
And the answers to how the perplexed problems of the future can be remedied.
Mm.
You know, because we have a situation here on this earth today that we're right on the pinnacle of where if we wait too long, nothing can be done.
Mm.
So we're at a point now where the world can survive, and I believe it will, for unlimited periods of time, because I believe that with faith, the right one will come along. And the right one could be here today because it seems as if things are starting to get better. You know, we just bunker down to a thing called COVID, and that seems to be sort of remedied to a certain degree.
Mm.
And all of the things that could lead to a catastrophe is they're working on that now.
Right.
So I think if we believe that and believe with our hearts and choose our leaders with our hearts for what they're doing and the purpose, I believe the planet will definitely sustain whatever the calamity that may arise from different situations that prevails today.
Right. No, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like the more opportunities and acceptance there is, and for people to be able to be in whatever community, that's whether like a woman's allowed to be in the military if they choose, or
Yeah.
if more people are allowed to make music and that's an actual opportunity for them. Like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So with that, what's interesting though, when you were growing up, you hear horror stories of like record labels taking like everything or not giving artists any pay. So from my understanding, you growing up, you wanted to be a businessman, but you discovered music. From your business mindset at the time, did you think music could be lucrative?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think when I was a kid, I realized that wherever I was sing, um, people would gravitate to me, and whatever, wherever, it was just a natural thing. Every time I would pick up a microphone, anywhere, people would just respond in a positive way up until this day. So it was a natural thing, but I ran into some hurdles because I didn't expect the music to change as soon as it did in the late 70s. And so when I realized that there's another factor that I hadn't included in my scenario of what I could do to sustain myself through the years, then I started listening to the new music, in the early 80s. So I realized if a person is going to survive in music, they have to be to a degree where they can be as to fit in wherever they need to fit, wherever they can, but to change. So from what I learned from the early 70s to the late 80s was how to fit in. How I don't have to be the star. I don't have to be the star as long as I'm fitting in. And they say, well, let's get Lee up here with us too. So I get calls all over the world to go everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm not the star. I'm the co-star.
Amazing. That's wild. That is, like, I guess with hip hop, that's been like a slow evolution, but it's interesting because when I do think of like an era of music that's like, I don't know, man, this is just my personal taste. Like my favorite music is 60s and 70s music. Like hip hop wouldn't be around if it wasn't for that era of music. But when I think of the 80s, it just kind of sticks out like a sore thumb with all the like electronic music coming out and stuff like that at that time. So that it is, and there's a lot of, no offense to 80s artists, there is some music in the 80s that I just can't get down with, but that is, I feel like everything other genres I feel like has been like a slow build up. So what were some hurdles that you did see like in the 80s with the change from like soul music into this like what's a good example? Like maybe like ABBA or AHA or those type of artists coming out in the 80s.
Well, what I saw in the 80s, when I saw the music changing, I became very, very disenchanted with the way things were going. So I thought that I was done. I thought that it was over with for me. But the voice inside of me continued to say, "You can do this. You can do this." So I was so disenchanted that I started to read. I became an avid reader, a very avid reader, and I read continuously. And I read the Bible. And but in order for me to get a clear understanding of what I was reading, and the Bible is written in Old English, and because I read this King James 1611 version, so it was written in Old English. But what it did, it gave me a broader vocabulary. It gave me to see what those words truly mean, and then I saw how a person can become beguiled because of the trickery of the language if a person isn't really informed as to the etymology of each word. So I began to read and began to search the word, what it meant at that time, and put it in its proper contents in the sentence. And I began to understand contracts, like real perplexed contracts. Most of very perplexed contracts are written in Old English because the first meaning of the word corrupt. The first meaning of the word corrupt is the changing of the language. So if you're reading something like when I was a kid, like pot used to be, you know, something you cook in, you know, you cook in a pot.
Yeah.
But now pot is you know, smoke, you know. So the word takes on different meaning as time passes. So I started reading in the 80s when I had all of this downtime, and I'm glad I did, because when I did go back to music in the early 90s, I haven't stopped. I'll be busy. I've been busy now for over 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, busy. And then I look at some of my friends that have had major success, and a few of them in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but their financial situation was totally and it was a total mess.
Wow.
So being a businessman, I'm doing okay.
Hell
I'll
yeah.
put it like that.
Dang, you really tied that together. That's amazing. That you literally just painted the full picture of that. That makes a lot of sense.
Well,
wow.
Well, I had to in the 80s, man. I got 4 kids now because of we had to raise my nephew because of his parents was deceased. And so I got a big family, and I'm trying to figure out how to survive. So I started to read, and I put trust in that good book. And this is the honest truth, man. I haven't had a regression in my musical endeavor since. It's just constantly expanding in all kinds of ways, and I give the credit to my faith. And if a person isn't Christian, regardless what religion, all religions is of God. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I feel. You know, if it's telling you that there's a higher entity or a higher existence, then that's of God, regardless what their religion is. If it's telling you that there's something greater than materials, then that's of God, regardless what religion that is. I just happen to be a Christian.
Got it. So how old were you when you first started music? Because from my understanding, you moved to New York when you were 17. So did all that stuff happen when you were 17, or did you start a few years before 17?
No. I had a band. When I was about 14.
Wow.
Because I had a paper route, and I consider myself a little businessman because, you know, I had my paper route, and I was doing very well with it. I was making almost half of the money that my daddy was making.
Wow.
With my paper, but with just carrying paper, but I had a lot of customers. But I would say the greatest thing to me that was sum up my earlier portions of life was just to believe that all things are possible. And I saw people of color in my town at the time. Nobody but a few had things, you know. It was just like, man, it was just like the old movies that you look at. People of color had nothing except a very few. And I wanted to be one of those very few. You know what I'm saying? Because I said to myself, I saw my mother and my father the way they was living. I said, man, you know, I said to myself, it's got to be something better than this. And I saw the way the racial tension was very bad at that time. But I just felt like, regardless of what happened, man, I believe God is going to show me a better way. And I put my trust in the Word. And today, like as I said, like a lot of blues singers will be a bit telling you a lot of hard stories. I got a few hard stories to tell you. I could tell you about when my nephew's parents. My nephew's father went up berserk and killed his mother and killed himself, and I have to end up, my wife and I raising their kid. That was hard. But after all of the pain of losing loved ones because of the unclear mind of one, it brought Dale to us, my nephew. And he's just like a son to me. He's just like a son. I raised him, and he's just like a son. So what good came out of that was the fact of being able to have the opportunity to raise it. And I'm glad that they chose my wife and I to raise it. The family decided that they, asked us would we take it. And so things like that.
Right.
The music to me is just something I do to spark up my day. And when I spark up my day, and it so happened that they put the records out. I be trying to say something that I truly feel. Like the song, for instance, Love You Forever. That was written for my wife. I've been my wife for 54 years.
Wow.
I want to love her forever. And I'm planning on loving her even after I leave here. I'm planning on still loving her in wherever that existence may be. But I feel I will exist once I leave here, because I have faith that there is an afterlife. So for those that don't believe that there's an afterlife, I enjoy your short term, because if you live to be 100, there still ain't no time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Compared to what time is. So, but that's the way I think. I guess that's the reason why people have been supporting me with all of these new fans through the years.
Yeah.
Because I'm shooting to you real. I'm coming at you real, man. I can get on a show such as yours, and I have hip hop guys be using all vulgarity and all. I don't have to use vulgarity.
Yeah.
I can manage to use the English language, and I think I do it very well.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? I think that if that was the message, that, which I'm not knocking any artist, if they feel like they have to use that, more power to them, but I don't think so, as far as myself.
Yeah. So your music alone will last forever. It's classic music.
Thank you.
Huge fan. What is your, in your opinion, what does it take for any artist to make a classic record? What is a classic record?
I really don't know what a classic record is. What I do, I just write from my heart. I write things that I feel like I really would say, That's something that somebody really would say. I try to write to a point of where I wanted to be just like real, man. Like we out here talking. Like if it was a love song, I would like to put in words the things I would really say. In given situations. So that being said, I really don't know what a classical record is. Only thing I know, it seemed like people, the music that I've been making, the people that have gotten into me, man, they stayed into me. I put it this way: life has been pretty good.
Yeah.
And life has been a blessing, no doubt.
100%. So I was wondering, from making music at such a young age, and how much has your voice changed with this? Like, you've got this like smooth but raspy voice. Did you have that at 14 or 17 years old?
Amazingly, the voice basically sounds about the same as it always has. I always sang this way.
Wow.
And I don't know. And what really amazes me when I saw her singing sometime, and I close my eyes and I saw her singing, I look at the people, man, sometimes it'd be people crying. Sometimes it'd be people just, it's so so euphoric, man, that like they be like so excited. So I really don't know. Because when I come on stage, I really just let my alter personality to just shine.
Mm.
And I'm like standing on the side watching them.
Mm.
I don't know what I do that people are so amazed about. But when I leave, I see them jumping and like they're in church.
Mm-hmm.
They be and then some of them be tears and some of them be, man, I can't even explain, man. It's just something that happens.
Yeah.
I can't. It's like I can't. That's the furthest I can explain it.
I think all artists wish they can have that experience while they're on stage. That's amazing, and to still have that feeling after so long, that's great. So, when you were 17 and moved to New York, what was that like for your family? Like, or how did your siblings feel? How did your family feel about that?
Well, when I left home, I left a younger brother and a sister, and my older brother had already moved out.
Hmm.
And when I got to New York, only thing I know, one by one, they all came up and found somewhere to stay, and found all of a sudden my whole family's up here.
Wow.
And then even my grandmother moved up here, and then she bought a house out in Plainfield, New Jersey, and all my family ended up living in Plainfield. We just like, when I go, the whole crew go.
Wow. Wow. And when you moved to New York, did you have a plan, or did you just do that thing where some artists feel like, if I go to New York, if I go to LA, someone's going to pick me out of the crowd? Or did you have like a solid plan by then?
No, I didn't have a plan. I went to New York because a friend of mine, his name was Fred. He said, if you ever come to New York, here's my address, come and I have a place for you, because you can make it. You can make it.
Mm.
And I thought about that, and I took a bus to New York, and my mother gave me her last $20.
Wow.
And I ended up in New York. By the time I got a taxi, because I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to ride a train. But at that time, a taxi took me from the Port Authority to Brooklyn, where I was going. And he charged me $18. So now I'm in New York with $2 in my pocket. And haven't rang the doorbell yet. Don't even know whether the person there or they have moved or didn't know.
Mm.
And the taxi driver was pulling off. But that's the kind of stuff I would do, because I believe in walking by faith and not walking by sight.
Mm.
So I rung the doorbell. I prayed, man, that somebody was going to answer that door. And it seemed like forever and ever that the door would just ring, and the doorbell would just ring and ring and ring. And all of a sudden, Fred came to the door. Oh man, let me tell you something. When I saw him, man, I was so happy to see him. I didn't know what to do.
Wow.
When he saw me, he was like surprised, because I hadn't called him to tell him that I was coming
Yeah.
up. So when he see me, man, his eyes got big as 250-cent pieces. He looked at me, what? I said, hey man, ain't you glad to see me? Hey man, he wasn't glad to see me. He said, man, you should have told me you was coming. He said, let me talk to the landlord. I'm moving out tomorrow. I'm getting married. I'm getting married tomorrow. And this apartment, now I'm out of here. He said, you should have called me. And I was like kind of sad in a way, because I thought they would be happy to see me. Mm-hmm. And but anyway, he talked to the landlady, and the landlady said that I could stay there for a few weeks. Providing I get a job. So I agreed. So I stayed there she let me stay there, but in the course of that 3 weeks time, before I could find a job, the night of Fred's marriage and his reception, I met this guy called Lonnie. Mm. And we became very good friends. And I told him I was a singer. And he told me, he said, listen, I know some clubs I'll take you around to after the reception. So we went out after the reception, and I went to a club and I did a song, and people started to throw money on the floor. And I ended up with enough to pay my rent, and I had about 20 some bucks in my pocket. Back then, you could take $20, 20 some dollars, man. Back then, you know, you could buy a whole lot of stuff with $20. In other words, I could fill your tank up probably twice.
Dang.
With $20 and still have about $7 left. That's how valuable the dollar was.
Yeah.
So once that night, and the people threw the money on the floor, I've been gigging ever since, except in the 80s. That was the only period that I had a problem with the 80s. I did very few gigs in the 80s. Because but the 90s, 2000, all the way up to today, man, I've been busy.
Dang.
And just as happy.
Heck yeah. Do you know how much your rent was at the very beginning?
Oh man, what was I paying for rent back there? I can't remember. Only thing I know, I had enough to pay her ahead of time.
Wow.
And I had 20 some dollars left in my pocket.
Wow.
And 20 some dollars went a long way, man. I'm telling you, back then, I mean, one day I'm gonna see what the value, how the dollar has decreased in value from back then. Because you know, people are paying $13, $14 for a pack of cigarettes today, right?
Yeah, it gets crazy.
And back then, a pack of cigarettes was like 25 cents. There goes to show you.
Yeah.
You know, so you had $1, man. Back then, you had $1. You had some cash. You tell her, I was a single man back then. You tell a lady, you know, got some cash in your pocket. You had $10 or $15, man. You had some money. You had some money, man. You got cash. But now it's not like that now.
No, dang. So you started doing these gigs in New York. When did you first connect with any record label or release your first album?
Well, it was years before my first album. It was in the mid 70s for my first album. But I was putting out like singles here and singles there. With a label out of a famous DJ out of Nashville, John R. was on John R. label. And then in '73, I was on the London label. They were distributing Al Green, and I think Elton John was on that label. And but after the change came, man, in the '80s, man, I thought I was done. I really thought I was done. The only thing that saved me, I'll tell you right now, is the Bible. Only thing. I believe in that book, man.
Yeah.
I believe in that. Every word of that book is true. And I will argue to the day I die with anyone and who denied that it's true. I would debate with them. I want to open debate, because I break it all the way down to Einstein theory of relativity.
Yeah.
That's how accurate that book is.
Yeah.
The book is accurate, man. If people believe Einstein theory of relativity, energy can mass time the velocity of light squared, why can't they believe that everything came from the word? Because we're talking codes here. We're talking just like there's Java codes. For Java language, you can put brackets and put some words in there and put a few words here and a few symbols there, and you run it through a computer, all of a sudden characters and everything start popping up. So in the beginning was the word. I think what we are as mankind, we are programmed. We are programmed with each of the entities that's in the program have 5 senses, as far as humans are concerned. And that confirmed that we are here.
Yeah.
When you lose all of those senses, can't touch, can't smell, can't hear, can't see, can't taste, you dead, bro. You gone.
Yeah.
So we are programmed.
Yeah. I like how you're breaking things down. That's great. So in the '70s, and were there any cool artist run-ins you had? Like I know you performed with Cool and the Gang, and you ran into
Well, cool.
James Brown at
Well,
at a
well, I was put with Cool in the Game by their manager.
hmm,
Their manager put me with the group. He had some intentions of recording me, but the late Gene Red, but God bless his soul, he passed away before we ever got on that journey.
wow.
So, but I worked with Cool for maybe about 6 or 7 months.
Hmm.
We was doing gigs around New York and places, and but that project never happened. He was going to record me, and I know if he would have, I believe it would have been a great recording because Gene Red was. Matter of fact, people ask me about my dress, why I dress so dapper. The reason why is because of Gene Red.
Mm.
He was a sharp dressed dude, man. And then I like what's those guys? ZZ Top.
Mm.
Women like a sharp dressing man.
Mm-hmm.
That really do.
Yeah.
They really do. You come out there and your clothes laying right on you, man, and you present yourself right. Women like that.
Yeah.
They like that. I tell you right now, like that.
100%.
Yes, they do.
So did you ever run into Al Green or Sly or Howard Melvin or any of those guys?
No, where my first drummer used to drum for Al.
Mm.
He was Al drummer for a long time. Aaron Purdy. He's from Wilson, and he was drummer with Al Green all throughout the 70s.
Mm.
And he passed away.
Mm.
But so he invited me over to see Al one time.
Wow.
I never met Al, but I watched the show, totally impressed, man, because he was hard as a firecracker, man. I mean,
yeah.
It was unbelievable, man. Al Green is great.
Yeah.
He's great. Great. Yes, he is. And but I watched him from afar and learned a lot from him. And but I was the type of cat, man. I met a lot of people, like I've been in a room with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I've seen them, but if something doesn't come up or when we get in a conversation, I don't be, if something doesn't happen, we just start talking. I just, I'm there. You got something to say, but I don't want to invade your space, because, I don't know you like that.
Yeah.
And I know you got a lot of pressure on you. People asking you, you don't need another person, coming up to you, adding more pressure on you. So I don't approach people unless something happens where we just meet and we talk.
Right. Who would you say your? I'll go first because that's actually a hard one. I know from the 60s, I gotta say, I have to say Al Green. It's gotta be like, besides just the era, is like one of my favorite artists of all time.
The favorite artist, I think the favorite recording artists I think have ever lived, to me, is Sam Cooke. Okay, yeah. Sam Cooke, man, I'm gonna tell you something, man. Sam Cooke was the guy. He really formed music scene. He really formed the modern day music scene because he was the guy, man, that was on top of his publishing. He was a guy, man. He was a businessman, and that's what I really admired him being a businessman more so than his voice. No, I ain't gonna say that. No, I'm lying. I'm lying. I gotta catch myself. I just told a lie. No, I love his voice better, but I really, really love the idea that he was a shrewd businessman. And I don't remember exactly how or where I saw this, so I hope it was in a positive light. But somehow or another, I've heard a conversation where you and Charles Bradley have been brought up together before. Like, have you guys worked together before, or have you just been compared? Oh, yeah, we was on the road together. I took Charles on his first European tour. Wow. To with me. We were very good friends. Wow. And, man, it saddened me the day he died. It saddened me, man, because I just saw him 3 days before he died. I went to the hospital to see him, my wife and I. And after I had a short run down in Texas, and as I'm driving back, I heard it on the news that he had passed away. Charles, man, I love Charles, man. You had to love Charles.
Yeah.
If you met him, you had to love him because he was the type of guy, man, that just he was like he had a very contagious personality.
Mm.
If you met him and talked with him for a few minutes, man, I can't describe Charles. I never met nobody like Charles. He was so charismatic, and he was man, he has such a pure he was a pure soul, man.
Mm.
A truly saddened and still is today.
Yeah.
And I'm also saddened about Sharon, man. Sharon Jones was just like Charles, and Sharon was just like a brother and a sister to me.
Mm.
And I was so happy to see his success. And I was so saddened of both of their passing.
Yeah.
It still is.
Yeah, for sure.
Still is.
He
We allowed here for so mane years.
Yeah.
And I take every day, man, like to accomplish whatever I can in that day.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being who, following this path, man, and trying to be the best that I could be.
Yeah. He has this I know you have your own KXP performance, but he has this one KXP performance also that I was at I think it was the KXP coffee shop, and man, it was so good. It was so good.
I got you.
Yeah. I'm just saying, he had this one of his KXP live performances, Charles's. It was it was breathtaking.
Yeah, man, he was something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of love, man. But you see, I think when people don't really appreciate every day that they have on this planet and try to accomplish what they can, because nobody's here to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, people might think 20 years, that's a long time. Man, we only here for just seconds.
Yeah.
Compared to what time is. We just here for just a day. You know, if we live to be 100 years old, we're only here for just a day. Because a day with God is like 1,000 years.
Mm.
So that being 1,000, so we live to be, if we live to be 100, so we wasn't even here for a day. We was about 15 minutes. no, about 7.5 minutes.
Man, that's so. What's so wild to have such a vast catalog and been making music for over 50 years. What is that like to have outlived so many of your peers?
Well, I think many of my peers brought it among themselves.
Mm.
You know, like because I had friends that was in a band, but everybody heard of them. I'm sound like Parliament Funkadelic.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys from Plainfield, so I know most of them. Some of them used to play with me. Glenn Goins used to play with me before he got with George.
Mm.
Well, first he got with Bobby Womack, and then he got with George Clinton.
Bobby Womack.
But he was my guitar player with a group called the Bags. I used to use them from time to time back when I first moved to Plainfield. But anyway, for to see my peers pass away, it's sad, but I know that it's going to happen. It's going to happen to me. It's going to happen to everybody. But I don't fear death. I don't fear death. I don't, nobody want to go. But I don't fear this to a point. I would try to live as long as I can, of course. But the thought of death to me is not the end. Because I'm not, the physical body that you're looking at now, this is my carriage for the time when I came in this earth to this earth, and to the time I leave, this is my carriage. But I'm not the carriage. A man is not the car. This carriage is my vehicle. A car is my vehicle. I'm what is looking out my eyes and seeing the bridge of my nose. That's where I'm at. I'm inside my intellect. I'm intellect. So intellect never dies. 1 + 1 will be 2 forever. Forever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm intellect. So intellect will be around, and intellect was here before anything was created. That is the master program. That is, we're just a part of the program. But we are given these spirits that is not from here, but from what has created everything. So we go back to that, and we'll be judged. Each person will be recalled, and people say, "Man, how can they do that?" The deoxyribonucleic acid, which is the DNA, everybody has a DNA, and when that code is called at Judgment Day, that person will be reassembled, and everything that person have said and done is recorded, and they'll be judged. And whatever comes after that happens. But it's real, man. We're not just here just to come in and have a good time. We're spirits from another place.
Yeah. So
my music and everything is based upon that principle.
Yes. So with that, what keeps you going with creating music? You're still releasing singles, you're still releasing albums, you're still going on tour. What keeps you going? You could probably at this point just stay home and relax if you wanted to.
Well, there's an old saying, a body at rest tends to stay at rest. A body in motion tends to stay in motion. So since I want to stay in motion as long as I can, I try to move as much as I can. When you see a person laying down for a long, long period of time, and they keep right on laying down and laying down, you can start looking at your watch. Because a body at rest tends to stay at rest. The longer they rest, the more chances are that they're gonna keep on resting. So I try to be up and at it, bro.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes. So I want to quickly talk about your band, the Expressions. How does that band come to be? Because from my understanding, every once in a while, it's an ever evolving band. So how do you choose, or what is the process of someone becoming a new member of the band?
Well, the manager of the band is Toby Pasner. And he handled all of the who's coming in, who's going out. Only thing I know, the people that are chosen to be in there, they're like my musical sons. They're like my musical sons. All of them are just like my musical sons. And I mean that. Toby Pasner to me is just like my son. I love him just like my son. Because the years that we've been together, about the last 16 years,
wow.
And he's been there. And times, nights when I wasn't feeling very well, was there. And matter of fact, I'm his kids. I'm the godfather.
Yes.
And I'm gonna throw a big bash at it. Matter of fact, I'm gonna invite you too.
Yes, please.
I'm gonna get you on out there. I'm gonna throw a big bash. Hopefully by the fall, if when I find a period in time where I can give everybody ample invites, and I'm gonna throw a big bash.
That's awesome. Let's end the show with one final question, and that is, what is some advice that you have for up and coming artists, creators, and influencers?
The best advice I would give any artist: don't lose confidence. Don't lose confidence. Confidence is the key. You got to be confident in what you're doing. if you lose that confidence, that is your the confidence is what guides you. If you lose that, you lose your way. Mm. And don't let nobody discourage you if you really feel it. And also, don't fool yourself.
Mm. So with that, is there anything you want to promote, your tour?
Well, I'm hoping to see people that love my music in all of the cities that I'll be touring through. And I want to thank everyone that supported me by purchasing the records. And I'm so happy. And I want to thank you so much for this interview.
Of course.
I truly appreciate it.
Of course. I appreciate you too.
And basically that's it.
Amazing.
Until I come to your city, I'm hoping to see everybody.
Awesome. So I end the podcast by saying this is the NAST podcast, and you say your name. So this is the NAST podcast with
Lee Fields.